Mal.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
You were not invited. I was just desperate for
Wow.
But honestly, I just wanted to start off by just saying thank you for doing this with
Yeah,
me.
thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. Obviously, we live together. That's what people may not know. And you and I have seen each other in various states of
Naked.
and sobriety as well too. So I felt that for the initial conversations, I'd want someone who I was familiar with and who would trust me to ask them these questions.
I mean, I don't really trust you, so.
Yeah, you shouldn't at all.
Yeah, but proceed.
So you're in the fashion industry.
Definitely,
And
yes.
if anyone knows me, they know that I love the fashion industry and people who work in the industry itself. And I think that most of us go through life looking for that moment that points us in the direction that we're meant to be in. That moment that says you are doing the right thing and you're meant to be doing this. So for you, what was that moment that said fashion is the spot?
Well, I think it all started when I was in high school, grade 12. I was on my final year with my arts course, and my teacher suggested to do a different medium. So I started stitching canvas muslin, and started painting them. And at that moment, I was like, why can't I just make this into clothing? Well, there's painted garments, it's painted all around. And so my teacher suggested again to why don't you just do fashion? It's we haven't really done that for years. And so there was a lot of sewing machines in the back of the art thing that they don't use anymore. So they just set one up for me. And so that's when it all started. I was like, I want to pursue fashion. I didn't even know what fashion was before.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, okay, I just want to sew and sew and sew and sew, even though I don't know what I'm sewing and how to properly sew them. And then, yeah, my teacher was like, I'll hire you a seamstress, and then you can learn from her.
Yeah.
At that moment, I was like, okay, this is it. I really want to sew. And so in my before my graduation, I did a collection for the school, and it had 40 to 60 pieces.
Oh, wow. Yeah. But then 40 to 60 pieces, right? At that time, what gives you that courage to believe that, or give you the impetus to make 40 to 60 pieces?
I think personally, when you love something, when you love what you do, it kind of just goes to you. It's you love something, and then you just start creating different things.
Yeah.
And it gets tiring, because you don't really know the real critiques, right? Because I grew up from Calgary, and there's not a lot of fashion there. So, but yeah, I just started sewing and sewing and sewing until I loved it the most, until it become my hobbies and stuff.
Which is the most exciting bit for you? Touching the fabric or actually working on the machines?
It's both, because when it comes to touching the fabrics, you kind of have the sense and imagination on how to do this kind of garment. Let's say if you touch silk, eventually you're gonna be like, wow, I want to do a dress or a shirt. And then if you touch something that's very coarse, then it's wow, I want something structured. So it's all exciting in different ways. With sewing, with the machine and everything, you just hear the sounds.
Yeah.
And then when it goes the right way, it's yes, I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
So that's just what keeps you going.
Do you ever get into a zone while you're sewing? Just you just focus in on something, everything else blurs away?
Well, before I started school, when I was doing collections, I would sew for 12 hours.
Oh, wow.
Straight, through them. I usually sew 9 p.m. till the next morning.
Oh, wow.
Because for me, my creative mind start literally, I'm a nocturnal bitch. So I literally get creative at night. So
Yeah.
I would just sew, and my parents would just yell at me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I've been in theater, and I've done film production. And I find that in each medium, the students dress in a different way. And it's always fascinating to see how people wear, what people actually wear. And so that's why I think for me, all black is like my theater background. And so when I look at the fashion students, I notice that they go all out. Obviously, this is not like OTT as you usually are.
Yeah.
So talk to me about
I woke
that.
up in the morning, so.
Talk to me about that in terms of why. Like
Why I dress up?
Yeah, I mean, in my head, right? If you're gonna do a fashion program, you're gonna be sewing all day long. Why are you not wearing Crocs and sweats?
Oh God! If you wore Crocs and sweat, just quit fashion school. For me, it started when I was a kid. I got made fun of a lot because of what I wore. I would wear like extra large hand-me-downs when I was a kid. So that kind of just like triggered me to like be someone and like be different. So when I started doing fashion, I kind of just like research on how to dress and how like what works with my body. And so now I just go all out because I feel like when you're dressed up, it's kind of like Tinder. Like people see you, right? It's kind of like swipe left, swipe right. If you don't look good, you don't look good.
Yeah. And was that growing up in your household? Was it important to
dress up?
Yeah, to dress up, present yourself in a certain kind of way when you walk out the door?
In a way, yes, but my parents like they do dress up when it's like events and occasional stuff. But I go all out ever since like I graduated high school, and I just wanted to be in like I just want to stay the same, like over the top, extra.
Yeah.
Just because like I used to be such a quiet kid, and I never really had this confidence until now when I was like featured in many magazines, and that kind of just like grew my confidence.
Yeah.
And so just dressing up is like a form of expressing myself. So yeah.
For someone out there who wants to study fashion, tell them what to expect in your current program.
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears for sure. Like when I talk about blood, get ready to sew your hands in the machine.
Yeah.
Like I've had that like literally dragged into my fingers, and it just like went through. With sweat, you're gonna be sewing from 8 a.m. till like 11 p.m. and then you have to get ready for the next class, for the next 8 a.m. class.
Yeah.
And with tears, you have like 7 courses, and 2 of those has like 2 days each.
Yeah.
So basically you have 9 classes in 1 week, 3 hours each.
Yeah.
You have so much homework, projects, and people that you can't really trust when it comes to projects. So yeah, you're gonna have a lot of those every semester. You're eventually gonna emotionally break down.
Yeah, but I also want you to talk about being a fashion student in this day and age where kids post something on Instagram and they're famous, where it seems as if, as a society, we don't necessarily need to take the time to perfect our craft. We can just bypass the success immediately. What is it like for you as a student?
I think as a student, like if you're a student who's working on your craft, it goes a long way. If you're an Instagram famous immediately because you're hot or because you have all this money to show off, like eventually your fame will go down because people will see that you have no talent.
Yeah.
So when you have talent versus when you don't have talent, it's kind of like, it's obvious. Even though like people with talent, their rise can be, you know, like this.
Yeah.
But people who has famous, like who's got their fame quickly, they go like this.
Yeah.
So eventually their 15 minutes of fame will just come to like going down.
Is it not frustrating though?
It is, because like you try so hard to like work and show your crafts to everyone, and at the same time you know that there's people who don't even work hard and they're more famous than you.
Yeah.
So that it's kind of like it's really frustrating for me too. So
I remember I had this conversation with my friend Lauren in South Africa. Hi, Lauren. We had this conversation after graduating from drama school where it was like, we spent 4 years training all this time to be actors. Whereas you get people who walk off the street, they go to a casting and boom, all of a sudden they're on the red carpet and they have all these opportunities. And I remember I asked Lauren, what is it worth? Like, what would you pick? Would you either have finished high school and gone straight into the business and work your way like that, or go get formal training and then get into the business? And so our answers were kind of split. For you, like, I mean, if someone came up to you and said, hey, either I can get formal training or I can just go straight into the business, what would your advice be?
I think when it comes to fashion design, you obviously need to know your target market. Obviously you need to know what you're designing or who you're designing for. School is really important when it comes to design because there's a lot of things that they teach you that you can't learn in like the streets. But there's also people who learned it from the streets where it's like they know how the business works, which is like when you have formal training and when you know street smart, yeah, it goes like it kind of like balance each other in like because like formal, you know about like how the industry works. Street smart, you know how people work.
Yeah.
So it's good for both things. But if you don't have one like each other, like you only have this and you only have this, eventually you're just gonna crash down because like you're not learning the things that you need for the industry.
Yeah. In the studio, obviously people are gonna see it at home. We have one of your pieces. So I want you just to talk about the process that you went through to make it.
I started with drawing it, sketching it, and just like visualize. I had a mood board as well.
Okay.
And I like drafted the patterns, which took like hours to do because you need to measure every inch and like every hem, every stitch.
Yeah.
And also, you have to properly know how it fits on the garment or else your design is just not gonna work.
Yeah.
And then I cut the patterns, which also takes time because you need to go through the grain line and stuff.
Yeah.
So you can't just cut on a fabric. You have to see which grain would work for you or which is the right grain.
Yeah.
And then after that, I sewed it, which took days to do.
Can you just talk a little bit about what was on the mood board?
A lot
if you
of
can remember.
dark, ethereal drama, kind of like a divorced widow, widowed twice.
Yeah.
And she's like looking for revenge.
Yeah. I think with the, can I call it a jacket or a coat? What's the term?
It's actually a blouse.
Ooh, okay.
It's a shirt,
but
it looked like a jacket.
Okay. So the blouse though, right? I feel as if it's, when I look at a lot of the pieces that you make, I feel as if your stuff is really bold, it's sexy, and there's something unapologetically sensual about it. So I want to know what materials or what artistic art forms, outlets, or inspiration, what things are you absorbing into you that then allows you to create, you know, these clothes that are so sexy and beautiful at the same time?
It really depends. It's not just like the material that I needed. Well, I mean, that is like one of the main things that you need. Also, you have to know, when it comes to like designing, you have to know what you're going to design. You have to prepare your mood board, and then you go to the fabric store and then just like see what works for you.
Yeah.
So for me, touching it and then draping it around my body, sometimes I would buy fabrics that wouldn't work out.
Yeah.
And also like, when I'm in the fabric store, I would just sketch.
Yeah.
I would just like see like, oh, this material, like I can do this with this. So I prepare myself before the stages of like sewing it and making it and then adding on to it.
Yeah. So do you ever just make something out of the blue, or is there a period of preparation that you particularly need as a designer before you actually get to the cutting, the draping, the sewing?
I go both. Sometimes I would need preparation to do it because like fabric costs a lot of money, and I can't just, I can't just mess up. Like let's say you're making a blouse and it didn't work for you because you cut it wrong, and the fabric is $162 a yard. It's like, wow, you just spent all this money and you literally just mess it up. So for me, preparing it is important.
Yeah.
But also there's times that I would just make it out of the blue, where if I'm going to like a fashion week, then I was just like, oh, I need to add something. Oh, add a cape. Then yeah.
I think everyone can see that the fashion industry, the pace especially, has increased substantially in the last 5, 10 years. Are you, as a student, not concerned about that, about the pace of fashion at the moment?
It is really scary, I'm not gonna lie, because as a student, you think that fashion will just kind of like stay the same according to your aesthetics. And everything changes within a year, or like even like per season.
Yeah.
It changes. Next thing you know, your aesthetic is not good anymore.
Yeah.
And you have no knowledge behind that because they make the trend boards.
Yeah.
So you can't just make your own trend board. You just like look at it if you want to be in the top. But also you can make your own trends, but you already know that other people has done that.
But my biggest concern though is the mental health of the designers. Because I feel that there's so many talented people out there. But when you're doing like what, 5, 6 collections, like over 20 pieces per collection in a year, that creates burnout. And so for you, are you not concerned that I'm gonna be put into this industry where there isn't an infrastructure to support my mental health?
But what kind of career is it that doesn't get you to a dark place?
Yeah.
Like every career in this world has, like eventually you're gonna be depressed and like scared and anxious, because like everything is a competition.
Yeah.
So no matter what you do, like graphic, video, or fashion, there's always gonna be stress and you're gonna be depressed. But at the same time, it's like, if you love what you do, then do it, right?
This is obviously not the first time you've been in the business. You were in it before, but then you took some time out, and now you're studying, and soon you'll be done, and you'll be back in it. What have you learned in your time, in this period of time, that the lessons that you're gonna take from this time and your past life? What lessons are you gonna take into the future?
Never chug a whole bottle of vodka. That was one thing. But I think for me, it is okay to take breaks, just because, you're in a career where you can progress whenever you want.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you need your mental health to be checked, and whether or not you can do the process, because being a fashion designer is really scary. It's like all this deadlines, all this, and the money that you waste, right? So it takes a lot on a designer, and that's why you need to be okay. You need to be this, because there's a lot of designers that commit suicide.
Yeah.
And because of the stress that they endure, and it's like, so yeah.
And then finally, because gotta let you go. Am
I getting fired?
Yes, right. What advice would you give your 10-year-old self?
I would say that if people would say you can't do this, you can't do that, then do it. Just because that will make you something different from other people. And also, if you want to become a fashion designer, just be ready to cut your fingers and cry and bleed to death. But yeah, you're gonna have fun.
Yes.
So.
Thank you so much, Mel.
Thanks for having me.
You're
Bye.
Wow. Wow. And we're done. Bye. Don't touch me. Wow. Wow. Wow.